Now we come to the second floor. Pictures here from the very beginning. This is the room facing the mountain. And this is the small bedroom in front with the balcony on the second floor. There I already had prepared the room in 21 in order to have also a bedroom in winter. You can see the small beautiful Sirori stove that Marina and I had carried upstairs. That was then the heat source for the winter. In between also some excursions are happening. I think it's great without following a path to somehow go up the mountain and discover. There wasn't forest everywhere in the past. It has changed over the years, which is happening very quickly here. When the area is abandoned, it becomes forested in a short time. But there used to be beautiful meadows where whole communities of people lived back then, or at least they had their stables and cattle here. Some are renovated, like this one. Many others have been abandoned for a long time, and some of them are even decaying. The first thing that usually collapses at some point is the roof. Apparently, the roofs are also deliberately destroyed because when there is no roof anymore, no more taxes have to be paid. Here too the question arose about the doors being too low. I took away the remaining material up to the ceiling as well, ripped out the lintel and also all this paneling. Here on the second floor the rooms are a little lower, so the final door height will be like the room height. Again, dusty work, so the beautifully clean room with the oiled chestnut wooden floor sunk in dust. These works happened in the fall 22 when there are other weather conditions occurring. Suddenly there are also clouds and fog. It's always a new spectacle when you look outside. There is actually an infinite number of different moods. A big new thing was acquiring certain tools, and I realized that it's incredibly helpful to have some tools, good tools, some of which I never would have thought to have before, like this circular saw, which actually rather scared me. This eccentric grinder, that's rather a simple thing, not insanely efficient either, but the right thing for certain jobs, of course. Woodworking, as I've mentioned earlier, is something I've always looked forward to. It's always a bit like a dessert for me after the rough stone and cement work. Here I took care of the door, which I wanted to enlarge with material from a spare door so that I can use the room again at least for the winter, and then of course also heat it with the stove. In December, there are often beautiful days where the sun comes over the horizon shortly after 8. That's actually amazing because that's quite similar to summer. The sun then simply rises much more to the left, that is, further to the east, where the mountains are higher, so it balances out again. That's when I say good morning to Cuero. Sometimes he's alone and waits, of course, for attention. And you can see in the distance at the top of the mountain already a little bit of snow. Then a work which I tackled once in between. I got such old wooden interior shutters from neighbors in the village, and that had been a dream of mine for a long time. I've always loved these interior shutters that exist in the south. And I think it's something very practical because on the one hand you can make it dark during the day when you might take a nap, and in winter it's also an extra insulation. Here in the top room there is a French door that was renewed at some point, but only single glazed. And then I put in a new frame for these shutters. The interior shutters were from smaller windows, and so I then had to make 2 shutters out of 4 pieces by joining them vertically. And again, this went smoothly with my new saw and wooden dowels. When the sun is low and shines on the closed shutters from the outside, you can put your hand on this wood from the inside and it's as warm as a radiator. And then I thought, this is a very welcome effect during the day when you don't fight a stove and you're outside the house. So it preheats the room a little bit and keeps a certain level of temperature. Otherwise, in the house, you can imagine these old stone walls where no sun at all hits. There you have very often just 8 or even only 5 degrees. Then the very uplifting feeling when the work is done. The shutters are also reasonably plumb and the closing works nicely. Suddenly I look in the garden. It was still blooming for a very long time. After the hailstorm in July, some of the plants still flourished. Partly I have grown or saved small plants from these tagetes and cosmine, which sow themselves independently, and these came then perhaps in October to bloom. But the flowering season continued well into December, and only then I prepared the garden a bit for the winter, and these faded plants had to go. At the same time, the tulip bulbs came into my hands, which I then also buried. Then make the room still quite ready, and with a few pictures again roam in the wider environment.